The honourable member for Kooyong.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The member for Oxley has a very short memory. The member for Oxley has a very short memory because after 6 years of the worst government we have ever seen in this country, the Australian people delivered a verdict on September 7th. And that verdict saw the Labor Party get its lowest vote since 1903. And then when it came back to this place, it turned its back on its people's choice and selected the member for Maribyrnong as its leader. And since then, we have had negativity and opposition for just opposition's sake. And when we went to the last election, we took three key policies. We were going to stop the boats, and we've done that. We were going to repeal the carbon tax, and we've done that. And then, most importantly of all, we were going to repair the finances of this country. And do you know why? Because the legacy that you left us, that the Labor Party left the Australian people, is just debt and deficit as far as the eye can see. $667 billion of debt is where we are heading if we don't take corrective action. We are currently spending $1 billion a year on the interest bill just to finance the debt. And do you know what, $1 billion a month, $12 billion a year, do you know what that equates to? That equates to half the defence budget of this country, or all the aged care spending of the Commonwealth. That's just meeting the debt and deficit legacy that Labor left us. Now, we have to take corrective action. And it's not just the Liberal Party and the Coalition who are saying that. It's independent players like the Parliamentary Budget Office. It's the IMF who have pointed out of 17 advanced economies that Australia has the fastest level of spending in the world. And it's the Commission of Audit. And the Commission of Audit, among its many important findings, found that Australia faces a major demographic challenge. That major demographic challenge means that while today we have 5 working Australians to every single retired Australian, that ratio will fall to 2.7 to 1. And that is a problem. Today's spending in this country as a proportion of GDP, government spending as a proportion of GDP, has risen from 2007 when we left government at 23.1% to today 25.9%. And again, if we don't take corrective action, that will go to 26.5% of GDP equivalent to government spending. Now, why is this a problem? Because the government's tax revenues as a proportion of GDP are only around 22%. So we are in structural deficit. We are spending more money than we are taking as a government, and that needs to stop. So in this budget, we do a number of important things. First, there's the fiscal consolidation, paying back about $300 billion of Labor's debt, saving about $16 billion a year in interest over the next 10 years. That's critical. Second, we are putting a record spend on infrastructure, equivalent to about $125 billion a year if you take into account the private sector and the state government's expenditure on infrastructure, which is stimulated by this budget, including through the Asset Recycling Fund. We are getting more young people, more older people into work than previously had been the case. Our earn or learn strategy for under 30s is vital if we are going to reduce youth unemployment from the stubborn numbers of around 13%, which continually went up under Labor. And for over 50s who have been out of work for more than 6 months, we will provide an incentive payment to employers to take them on. This is absolutely critical. And we are putting a record spending, investing in education and innovation. The Medical Research Fund, where we are world's best, is now going to be stimulated by up to $20 billion as a result of those initiatives. And of course, giving real support to apprentices for the first time with a HECS-type loan of up to $20,000. This is making a real difference, and our universities will be unshackled with the deregulation of university fees to allow them to compete with the world's best. This is what we are doing in this budget, and this is critical to Australia's future. Now, those opposite are hypocrites because they know that when they were in government under Bob Hawke, they supported a Medicare co-payment. They know they support a PBS co-payment. They need to take their heads from outside under the sand and actually support our important measures
Order. The
contained in
honourable
this
member's time
budget.
has expired.